Welcome to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages, with your host, Matthew Shipp. This is the podcast for all of those who are involved in the agriculture all the way to the distribution of beverages. And now your host, Matthew Shipp.
Hello and welcome to Harvest to Pour. I'm your host, Matthew Shipp, and today I am here with Phillip Bogolub, founder of Bogolub Records. He is also the creator of the mindfully immersion system called Ajanoi. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what Ajanoi is and how it could potentially help you in your business. But first, welcome to the show, Phillip.
Well, thank you for having me, Matt. I really appreciate it.
All right, excellent. Thanks for being on. And so just take us through, how did you get where you are today? What is your business about? And just take us through your journey.
Sure. I was born. And that's too far.
Oh, wait,
back.
that's a little too early. Yeah, it's too far.
No, don't get so specific. Okay, so I was in the corporate world for over 40 years as an engineer with an MBA supporting a medical device. And for those of you who don't know what an X-ray tube is, if you've ever been through a CAT scan or an X-ray machine, and that stuff that gives you the radiation has images on it to tell you what's going on, the device called an X-ray tube is what I assisted in designing and supported and traveled all over the world doing it. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I'll tell you, life happens, but we can go into that later of how I got out of it. Mm-hmm. I also have over 30 years as a music composer. And right now I'm in the production of my very first musical. It's called Ajanoi Musical Philosophy. I don't think we're going to have time for that right now, but it has to do with that immersive communication system I've designed. And how we consciously communicate is what it's all about. And what I learned through that job and through that corporate experience was how to empower others to empower ourselves. Because I wasn't there to put the fire out. I was there to support you. I was there to talk to you and go, hey, let's go get a cup of coffee. I know because people are screaming at these people on CAT scanners. Medical equipment is a lot of money, and there's a lot of people, a lot of patients. They don't want to go to another hospital. So the engineer that's working on site is being screamed at, yelled at. I was there going, hey, okay, let's figure out, because you have all the answers inside you. He was just dog chasing the tail. So what I did is I learned, which I didn't know how much until I went on my own, how much I was empowering others to power myself. I was empowering that person to realize I don't have the answer, because 99.9% of the time, I didn't fix anything. I was just there to bounce ideas and have that mind release from dog chasing the tail type of mentality into figuring out how to troubleshoot it right. So that's my background. I also, with my immersive communication system called Ajanoi, my goal is to reach 1 million people worldwide.
Yeah, reach 1 million people worldwide
being able to, okay, so let me get into it. We'll get right into it, right? So when your mission is to improve the well-being in the world, that's what it is. Your mission is to improve the well-being in the world. I don't care. I know this is coffee, we're talking about coffee or anything with liquid, with what you do, and you do it really well, right? It's liquid, right?
Liquid.
I'm saying liquid.
Beverage, yes.
Beverages.
Liquid, sure.
I'm not the beverage guy. I call it liquid. I'm a dorky engineer. So that mission to empower people and to improve the well-being of somebody. You go to a coffee shop, you're improving the well-being of somebody. You're going for a place to get beer or a glass of wine or whatever that beverage is. You're improving the well-being in the world. And it's like, Phil, that's crazy. How can you be doing that? Well, because it's calming somebody down. It's making somebody feel good within themselves. So when great companies invest in the well-being of their people, in return, employees invest in the well-being of themselves, which directly reflects to the well-being of the company they work for. It is designing a purpose for each person involved from the top down. And that's what this communication does.
Great.
I can get more into it if you want.
Well, we're going to get a little bit into it, because we're going to take you through the process of what this podcast is about, Harvest to Pour.
Yep.
Now, when I say Harvest to Pour, and my listeners have heard this before, I'm talking to a beverage industry. I'm talking about where they source their ingredients, how they make their product uniquely theirs. And the pour is kind of the marketing and pieces. But there's a lot of communication that happens in between all these steps. And you spoke about, you're empowering the people to help them solve their problems they probably know the answer to, but can't quite get there.
Right.
And you're also empowering that well-being. Now, going to a coffee shop, going to your favorite pub, winery, yes, that improves the customer's well-being because they're in a unique environment, unique place. So I'm going to step back and talk about that business owner who is trying working insane hours, trying to provide that product, trying to provide that environment and that experience to keep his people, keep his customers coming back so they can experience that well-being. So at sometimes the expense of the well-being of the owner.
Yes.
So where do you see within that harvest to pour journey, where do you see you could step in with Agenoi and help that business owner find their well-being in their business?
And that's a great question, because, we get so lost inside in this philosophy, in this belief system, in this communication system. Agenoi, it has to do with two separate minds, your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is the one, the dog chasing the tail, the one that you already know what to do. You've been told this is the way you're supposed to do it over and over again, and you keep doing it and you get nowhere. And then when you do it, you say, well, that's reasonable. Everybody else is doing it. I'm just going to follow what everybody. It's kind of like going to the grocery store and you're going, that person looks healthy. I think I'll buy what they're buying. You're following everybody else's advice or seeing how somebody else became successful, quote, successful, whatever that is, whether it's financial, whether it's making a difference, whatever it is in whatever beverage you're in or whatever business you're in, actually. So it's a delivery of mindful, immersive employee engagement. Mindfully immersive employee engagement to create the change maker leaders and millions of employees worldwide are looking for. You have to create a purpose for all your employees from the top down. If you are doing this as a monarch and you are just saying this is the way it's going to be done, you're going to fail. And you're going to be struggling the living daylights out of yourself. Creating a purpose for your employees and clarifying everybody's purpose from the top down. That's what needs to be done. This creates then an opportunity for everyone, which creates more revenue for everyone. You're engaging the people that are with you. You want to have people are, complaining now for the past few years about keeping people. Well, you can't keep people if they don't have a purpose. If they're just doing it and you're just paying them a bunch of money, but you got to have them engaged. They have to create a purpose for everyone, which then creates retention for everyone. You want it. When I was an engineer, I was there for over 25 years. Every day I was in joy and abundance. I loved going to that job. I traveled. I met people. I'm not the kind of engineer that was sitting behind a desk designing stuff. I couldn't do it. I have to talk. Surprise, surprise. So you have to get into the mindful creation of immersive employment engagement and develop this organically, because the only way you can do this is through the mind. If you don't use some kind of mindful technology to get this done, you're just going to give somebody a bunch of worksheets to do things. We've all been at these classes, right? I know in the corporate world, I'm sure, Matt, you have been, you go to these. I used to work I was in the sales and marketing department as an engineer, and I supported them. And we had these trainings, and you get these packets. We get these goofy people rolling up their sleeves and doing that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to puke. What are you talking? Oh, we're going to really get into it. And buddy of mine, his name is Jeff, and we used to always go, this is going to be very painful, but at least you get free dinner and lunch. But nothing gets out of it. You go to these classes, they do nothing to teach you what to do. They talk about all these high-level things, but they don't give you a process and procedure what to do. I have a process and procedure how to get you there. I have 5-step programs. I have understanding how to do this through the mind in getting you to where you need to go without working 50,000 hours a week. The more hours, people go, well, the more I work, the more I'm going to get done. That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. That means that if your kids aren't getting their homework done, they're going to work harder and longer. No. You don't need to work 90 hours a week. If you're working, I had one manager many years ago that told me, I was a mentor when I first got to my old job. He goes, if you're working more than 30, 40 hours a week, we need to sit down because your plan's not working. You don't need to be working every minute of the day. And he goes, the people around here that are working every day, they're getting less done than what you're doing. And he was right, because you really have to get out of the idea of the conscious mind of dog chasing the tail, of the habit and routine of this is the way it's supposed to be. This is what I was told. This is what I went to school for. This is what everybody's saying that they did. That doesn't mean it's going to work for you. If you're not going to be, what's different from, I'm doing these seminars at health clubs. And what's different from one health club to the other? Nothing. Oh, they might have a pool. Maybe nothing. Well, guess what? I do health club for the mind. They do health club for the body. You need to make a distinction of what you're doing in your business. Otherwise, it's going to be just like everybody else's. And that's what I help people find, because you have the answers inside you. Yes, go ahead.
So you mentioned mindful technology and a health club for the mind. Now you use, from what I understand, you use a little bit of a music within that seeds through this as part of your processes and your systems, I should say, not your processes, but your system towards Ajanoi. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that helps solve the problems you're seeing?
Absolutely.
People are coming to you?
Absolutely. So music is a frequency. And we always change. I don't believe we get older. I believe we change frequencies. I don't believe we die. We just change frequencies. And the reason why I say that is, you know how you see people in your minds or you feel people around you. So when I play music, the instruments I play in order of competence: piano, guitar, bass, and drums. That's my thing.
More than I play.
And that's okay. But that's how I communicate, through music and sound and singing and colored spectrums of light. So I bring lights into this too, because you have to have, the mind's got to have something inviting. Music always captures people. When I started playing music in my seminars, and just a few months ago, because my wife and somebody else going, let me get this straight. You have this gift, but you're not sharing it with anybody. I'm like, I never thought about it that way. People don't hear, it's like mistakes. You think you hear mistakes like when you're doing a presentation, when you're the only one who knows. Because my wife always goes to these too. She goes, I didn't hear anything. You're your own worst enemy. But when I play the music, people are clapping, people are relaxing. When I've done music videos, I'm really good at doing videos that are like a minute long to make you relax, putting things in and writing piano songs and drums and bongos. And I play bongos too. But there's all sorts of things that I add to it. And it's a holistic approach. It's a humanistic approach. So when I give this through music and sound, because I've brought my 12-string guitar. Now, those of you who don't know the difference between a 6 and a 12-string, it's more rich sounding. You double the amount of strings for each chord, E, A, D, G, B, E. So when you do that, you just strum any chord you want, and it just relaxes you. I've got, because I just bought you can buy anything now that's cheap now, piano that has speakers that sound better than the speakers I had 30 years ago. And it has nice sounds. So next month, in January already, next month, I'm going to be doing seminars at the Health Club once a month, including my regular ones, on meditation. And I'm going to bring more stuff into it pertaining to sounds, bird sounds, relaxing sounds. I'm writing a whole composition that people can relax to when I'm doing one of the relaxation techniques called the faucet. So I know I'm getting into a lot of detail here, but putting the music and that frequency into this with lighting is basically what I'm doing with the musical. But now I'm doing it at a smaller scale, because people connect with sound. People connect with frequency. When you hear something live and you're in person, a band, a group, whatever it is, even a speaker, different energy, because that energy is coming off you. That colored spectrum of light is coming off you. That energy is, if you're energized about it, people hear it, people feel it, people see it. And that's what this is all about.
All right. So you did bring it up. So you've got to talk about it now.
Okay.
You brought up your musical. So this guy is multi-talented. I kid you not. He's even created a musical. And if you want to tell us a little bit about that, and then I have a follow-up question kind of once again, on the Health Club for the Mind. But go ahead. Tell us a little bit about your musical, since you've, how that manifested.
Well, Ajanoi musical philosophy. So I wrote it a couple of years ago, and I stayed in contact with somebody who loves the idea and loves the philosophy and loves the musical. It's about empowering yourself. It's about realizing everything's inside you. And it's a spiritual story, because this is a spiritual communication system, a philosophy, a spiritual way of doing things. So it has to do with the universal mind, spirits, and angels. So the whole idea is being able to connect from the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the imaginational mind. Albert Einstein used to say, imagination is just a preview of coming attractions. Look what he did, and all the people since then. So once you connect, and I teach people how to do this in the philosophy and in the seminars, in the communication system and understanding your mind and the two separate minds, informational, transformational, in this musical, it comes out completely in understanding. You connect to the universal mind. The universal mind sends out the spirit guides. The spirit guides connect you to the three angels of coincidence, serendipities, and accidents. Those connect you to discovery, awakening, and transformation, then connects you to your gut and your soul. This is a whole process and procedure that has gone through in the musical, 3 acts, 90 minutes long. The musical itself is basically completed, but we're rewriting it to fit into the Hollywood understanding with some executive producers now, because in the past 6 weeks, this thing has taken off. And it's really like the communication system, but different. This is more on a universal scale. So when I say I want to reach 1 million people, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be doing it in a musical. I'm going to do it in movies. I'm going to do it in live stages. I'm going to do it in traveling roadshow. There's all sorts of ways it's going to be happening in the next few years, because I got a goal about 4.5 years to get this totally done the way I want it. And when I say the way I want it is, I'm not going out there pounding the pavement going, hey, Matt, do you like this? Hey, Matt, do you like this? I already tried that. It's a big waste of time. Because most of the people, as my kids used to say when they were little, they're a lot of fakies. And ladies and gentlemen, when I met Matt, so that's a mouthful, he's very genuine. And I got to say, the reason why I'm on this show is because we met over a LinkedIn conversation, and then we talked on the phone and stuff, and we've talked several times, but he's very genuine. And if you want somebody to go in, and I'm not doing this for any reason, not paying me anything to say this. If you want somebody to go in there and give you the way he does it, the way he whittles it down to A, B, C, D, and E. Matt does something that I love as an engineer. In engineering, I know I'm going a little off subject, but in engineering, when you design an X-ray tube, you have physics, molybdenum, beryllium, all these different materials. If you go from A to Z and you skip J, whoops, it don't work. And that's what Matt does really well. We've had some great conversations because he fills in to make sure you get through the entire alphabet of stuff, because you're usually missing one thing and Matt can fill in. I fill it up from the communication system side and the philosophy and the belief system and the informational and transformational and all the process procedures I have. And that's the way I roll, baby. But Matt is really good at that. So that's really why I wanted to be on his show. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I really appreciate that.
And Matt's paying us for that pitch, but anyway.
Maybe a bottle of bourbon. We'll see. All right.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, I went off a little bit on the musical.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So again, I want you to go back to that health club for the mind. And you said you've been helping out some people in health clubs. So do you have any stories around that? How have you helped people there?
It's interesting.
As an example.
As an example is we go in and we're so worried about getting those muscles going, getting our oxygen going, we're jogging, getting lifting the weights. This is a mindful weight exercising of the mind. We don't exercise the mind. And as we get older, we fall into the trap of the subconscious and conscious minds that are mirroring each other. Well, this is the way it's going to be. I'll just rationalize this. This is the way my life's going to turn out. I didn't get it the way I wanted to. Hey, audience, I'm 61 years old. And I took this dive several years ago, not that long ago, just a few years ago. People were saying, you're too old to do this. No, you're not. You're never too old, and it's never too late. So that mindful thing of exercising your mind, the health club for the mind. I had somebody come up to me once that after my second, I think it was second or third one I did the health club here. It's Good Samaritan Health Club here, connected to a hospital, Good Samaritan Hospital. And what I really loved about it, she came up to me, she said, you know what, you made a difference in how I communicate to my grandmother. Like, what? Because you don't usually hear success stories. You don't use it. And she goes, I loved your idea of exercising the mind. Every time I went to my grandma and talked to her, my mind muscle, this is this person telling me this, my mind muscle was saying this, this, and this. And I got angry with her. So what I did is I reworked my mind and remuscled it. I wasn't using the right muscles in my mind. I was using the conscious mind, the informational mind, the one that's the dog chasing the tail. The one that tells you this is the way it's got to be and rationalize it, to the informational, the transformational mind of the subconscious, the universal mind, spirits, and angels. Creating all the accidents, serendipities, coincidence, creating discovery, awakening, transformation. I know I'm talking about it fast, but this is what I was teaching. And she goes, it's changed my relationship with my grandma. And now I'm not going there angry. And guess what? She told me a few weeks after that, she goes, guess what? When I'm going there, she's not being such a blankety blank anymore. The first thing out of her mouth, something negative. Mm-hmm. And she goes, I changed from the inside out. That's where you need to be. You can't let the rest of the world tell you what to do because they don't have a clue.
And I think that's a great message for a beverage industry owner that is completely overwhelmed, is realizing and rationalizing with their own mindset and how important it is. I know we hear about mindset all the time, but I think, Philip, you just definitely dissected it in a unique way, an engineer's way, if I will, of how that really does work. It's usually a lot of people are saying, mindset, and it's followed by this word that I kind of have a love-hate relationship with, is manifest. I mean, I was like, okay,
What
yeah,
does that mean?
I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire right now.
Right.
Where's the money? So I'm sorry, I don't manifest things. I create a mindset that keeps me doing the right things day in and do out the next best thing.
Can I,
And
when you're done, I want to expand on it. Go ahead.
yeah, okay. And I think it's something really owners of any industry really that are really overwhelmed wearing all those hats and needs to offload that. And
Absolutely.
some of that mindset is trust. And I
Yes.
think, and building on that trust with your team that they can do it, even if they're not doing it the way you do it. There's a lot of pieces with that, because that mindset is kind of, it's kind of like a cold. It's contagious if it's the right mindset. It's also contagious if it's the wrong mindset.
Oh, I like
And
that
I've seen that
example. I like that. Say that again. I like that.
What? A mindset's like a cold?
Yeah, I love
it's contagious,
that.
whether it's a good mindset or bad mindset.
Right.
Yeah.
I love, that's a great example.
And I'll let you go back to that. But as you do, I want to hear if there's one thing someone could do, a business owner for themselves listening to this right now to improve that mindset, something they can do for themselves, what would that be?
Go into silence. Go into silence.
Can you
Find,
explain?
yes, absolutely. So we don't forget I call the phone the idiot box, because it's just a bunch of idiots telling you what to do on a phone. Shut everything down. Find somewhere, someplace to go with nothing. No music. If you have to look out the window, look out the window. Because what happens is your mind will talk. I can't do this. I'm going to die from a heart attack. I'm going to lose all my money. Let it go. Don't force it. I've talked to several yogis, and I'm not talking Yogi Bear. Thank you very much. You're a good crowd. Tip your waitress. A yogi, with spiritual stuff. I said, please tell people that don't believe the movies. If you try to stop the noise, you're going to get a big giant headache. So get in touch with the noise that's going on with you. Get a piece of paper and a pencil and be spiritual, however that is for you. I have a whole process procedure on it. Do whatever you want to call it. For you, call it a cup of coffee. Whatever you want to call it, however you want to do it. Go, so no noise, no music, no people. And it doesn't have to be for hours. You're not like Batman looking for the purple flower going up into the mountains. You find a place that you know is peaceful for you. And you just sit there, pencil and paper, and you focus, let the noise go away, and then start asking yourself, what am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to get out of it? That's just one of the process procedures. And you don't have to ask. You can ask it in a different way if you want. Start going, you know what? I really am not clear on my employees. I'm not engaging them. I don't like the way the product is coming out, because it looks like all the other corporate type companies, whether it's alcohol, whether it's coffee, and you're copying everybody else. But you have a way of doing it. You have your own. You wouldn't be in your business. You wouldn't be in where you're at unless it was meant to be. And
Absolutely.
because you're a little lost doesn't mean that it's bad. But when you get into silence, forget the meditation and sleep part, but you get into silence, let the noise go through, and you have pencil and paper. I'm telling you, if you do that every day for 5 to 15 minutes every morning before everybody gets up in the morning, I don't care what time it is, you get a cup of coffee, you sit down, and you write down like 10 to 15 ideas that come out of your subconscious imaginational mind. Remember, imagination is just the preview of coming attractions, just like Einstein said. Absolutely. Mark them down. Mark 10 to 15 down every single day. If you get one, you only need one good idea. You don't need 5. You don't need 100. You just need one. And if you just and don't judge them. Don't correct the spelling. I can't spell anyway. Mark down exactly what comes out of your mind. When your mind starts focusing on that, you're going to get hooked on it. And after a while, you're going to go, if you don't do it in the morning, you're like, I don't feel right today. You're going to reframe your mind in a way that's positive, but you need silence to do that. That's the first thing to do. So I suggest how you do it is get into silence, however you do it. Get in there.
You heard it here. Get into silence. Find your best way to get into silence and let your mind do the walking a little bit.
There you go. You hit it again. See, he's got another pearl. I like this. I should mark that one
I
down.
know.
I'm going to get a bumper sticker.
There you go. So before we end, you said you wanted to go back to something along the
Oh, gosh, I don't remember.
rationalizing mindset. Okay, well,
No,
But I do have-
that was it.
Oh,
I do remember.
maybe he does. Okay.
Okay,
Haha.
thank you. See, you got it. It was there. So I was doing a few private students for a while, but that's kind of tapering off, and I'm focusing on more groups and stuff because it's just a different type of energy. And it was good, but one of them said, you know what, I want to create a relationship. And you can put this into any business you want. So that's great. So what do you think? It's like, well, I'm praying. I said, there's a lot of praying, meditating in this because it's spiritual. I said, I'm doing this. I'm asking, and I call it God. You know, there's over 115 names for God in the world. There's 48 of them in India. There's over 38 in the Old Testament. They're all over the place. You can call it whatever you want. You call it Krishna, Atman, the Force. Believe it or not, the Force is real in a civilization that doesn't exist anymore. So they stole that. So anyway, I said, so he's praying. I said, God, you know, give me a good relationship. And then I said, well, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm not, he used that word manifestation. I can't stand the word manifestation. It's like a nowhere word. Nope. I go, let's not use that word. He goes, well, I'm just, waiting for it to happen. I go, what? I said, if you want a job, don't you look for something? He goes, well, yeah, but I actually have to do an action. And he looked at me and goes, oh, I need to do something. I go, yeah. See, God needs specificity, whatever you want to call it. You need specificity. You need to mark down exactly what the relationship you want, what they look like, how old they are, do they have kids, have they been divorced? I don't care what it is. It's the same thing with your business. You need to be very specific of what you want. Now, whether you call it Atman or whatever, however you want to do it, whatever works for you, you got to get in touch with your inner side, in your mind. The last place we go is our mind. We're reading books. We're looking for answers, and it doesn't work. You know the answer. And that's why I bring it out in the answer, because I'm teaching. I'm not training it. I'm a teacher. I'm a trainer. I'm not somebody who's a coach. I'm not telling you how to engineer an x-ray tube. I could do that in 2 minutes. This is about your inner knowing, baby. You know exactly what it is. So when they found that, the class ended with this is a private student. And about a month or two later, I didn't hear from him. And he texted me. He said, I found somebody. I said, what? So he got on a phone call, and I met him for a cup of coffee. And I don't go to the name coffee places just for people to fill in that blank. I go to something local and small. I want to support my small businesses. So we're just sitting there, and he goes, it was the most amazing experience. I had a lot of doubt. I went through a lot of basically bad dates, but by like the 30th date or some number, I can't remember what he said I found the right person, and now we're going at it. And I never heard back from him, and I don't know if it succeeded, but he said, I'm loving it. He goes, I'm going to apply this same system to everything I do, whatever it is, buying a house, buying a car, getting a relationship, getting a new job. So that's the thing I wanted to share with you. The mind is very powerful. We never go to it. We always go to somebody else's. We got it already inside us.
Very valuable lesson to learn. So I do have, almost a final question for you, but this is the hardest of all of them.
Uh-oh.
Here it goes.
Uh-oh.
What is your favorite beverage?
Well, it depends on my mood. So I will like sipping tequila or whiskey during the summertime. During the springtime, maybe I'll have like a vodka martini. I make the best. I'm not inviting everybody over, but I make a really good vodka martini.
All right.
And so I have that. But so it's the summer, and then in the spring, and then the fall, I'll just have a glass of wine. I don't know why. It's one of those things that kind of like, it's the mood that guides me. Like I'm a big tea drinker too. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll have some green tea today. The weather, the sun, so I let the spirits guide me and going, because it makes me feel good. We're talking about this at the beginning of the interview. When you're going to places, whether it's a business or whether you're making the actual product from the beginning, going to the business, you got to give that feeling to people. And when you're giving that feeling, you're making a difference in people's lives. So I hope I answered your question. I'm kind of moody with that stuff.
That was great. It's seasonal drinking and what it means to you and your mindset all in one sentence. That was awesome. Can't ask better.
It's true.
So, I want to go ahead and how can people, engage with you, reach out with you? I know you have a podcast. You want to talk about that real quick?
Our podcast is called Conscious Communication Podcast. It's about how we consciously communicate. And it has a lot to do with the communication system I've developed. and I'm going on my 60th or 61st or 2nd interview, and it's taking off. And I'm getting people on there. Conscious Communication Podcast. Check it on Apple or whatever your favorite places to listen to stuff. Look up my name, Phillip Bogolub, Phillip. Buy one, get one, LUB, Bogolub. And you can look me up on whatever you listen to. And it's about how we consciously communicate. And if you ever want to be on the show and you have something to communicate that's very positive and giving people, like this show is, a different perspective on being successful, how you communication, because I always focus strictly on the mind. So that's what that show is. And for contacting me, it's my website is bogolubrecords.com. That's Bogolub, records.com. You can contact me by bogolubrecords@gmail.com. Or you can call me. I'll give you my phone number, 331-251-1125. And you can contact me that way, but you can check out all my stuff on my website. I have an interview talking about the philosophy and the system. It's a very interactive website, and I do a lot of different things. Really don't talk about the musical in there because it wasn't really taking off until recently. But yeah, if you want to get a hold of me and you really want to make an immersive difference in your mind, in your life, in your business, in your relationships with everybody, let's talk.
All right. And I'll have all that in the show notes as well. So yeah, this was a great talk, Phillip. I really appreciated this. This has been really informative, a really unique way. And I think now is a great time to kind of sit back and exercise that muscle we don't often exercise other than learning, the mind. And let them, healthy mind, healthy work, and hopefully much success. So again, thanks again for all the time you've given us, all the insights. And again, everything will be in the show notes. And I think that'll be about it.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I loved our conversations that we've had before here and there. And you're really a very genuine person, because when I just talking to you, I mean, you're in another state, but we did the Zoom calls or whatever we're doing the calls and even phone calls. You really come from a place of you want to make a difference, and you want people to be aware of the different stoppages that are going on for them that you can clear up from just your corporate experience in your life. So it's been great. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages with Matthew Shipp. Check the show notes for our guest contact information and connect with Matthew Shipp on LinkedIn today.